I never would have thought in 2025 we'd be sitting here talking about Escape the Night drama, but Tana Mojo recently did the Escape the Night movie, and she was not happy with how she was treated or with how Joey handled what happened to her, and she's calling him out. It's a mess, so let's get into it. If you were a fan of Escape the Night, you were probably really disappointed when YouTube Originals chose not to renew it for another season, and then all hope seemed to be lost when YouTube Originals themselves stopped producing content altogether. It's been a long time coming, but after 4 years, Joey finally received full rights to Escape the Night, and he decided to try and bring the project back to life. He launched this whole campaign to hopefully crowdfund enough money to back the movie, and he wrote, "After 4 long years, we are back and need your help to bring the next chapter of Escape the Night to life. With the shutdown of YouTube Originals, I finally own all the rights to the Escape the Night world that our team has worked so hard to create, and a show that is so beloved by all the amazing fans. My dream is to expand the Escape the Night world with bigger stories, more drama, fresh faces, and a new level of horror and lore you've all been asking for since the start." Joey did end up meeting his goal, raising over $230,000, and ever since then, fans have been anxiously awaiting for the next chapter. There's been little teasers posted here and there, but for the most part, the actual cast of Escape the Night has been kept pretty quiet, and it was meant to be a surprise. Well, that's until Tana Mojo spoke out about something really serious that happened to her, and she kind of ended up giving away key details about the film. At the end of December, Tana went on her podcast and talked about a really scary situation that happened to her while she was on set for a movie. Tana talked about how much she loved the person that she was doing the movie for, and she wanted to keep everything as vague as possible in order not to leak anything.
And a while ago, an old friend of mine hit me up to be a part of this project, right? And I'm not going to say who, like in hopes to keep the identity of all of this concealed, but I'm sure people will find out. And what I want to say is, if people find out, if you do find out, don't go send hate, because this isn't anyone that you would know's fault. You know what I mean? Like I really want to, like the person who I did this project with and for, like I love so much. So I feel like even guilty, like associating this like with his name and with his whatever.
But Tana's fans were quick to put 2 and 2 together and figure out that she was talking about Escape the Night. Now, during the story, Tana was trying to set the scene and explain how much she didn't want to be there in that moment.
And so we get there, and then I'm getting styled, I'm getting dressed, and I'm so uncomfortable. It's like 9:30 in the morning. There's all of these other characters there as well. I don't want to like say all the people. Let's just say I walk into like characters screaming, whatnot. I had a YouTuber come up to me and tell me that they're like at 9:30 in the morning, I'm standing there like fully ready, like in a gown, and I'm having a YouTuber tell me that their parent just passed away and they turned their ashes into marijuana and then they smoked their parent. And I'm like, it's 9:30 in the morning and I'm downtown and this YouTuber is telling me about how they smoked their dead parent. And
is that against the law?
Which made people realize Tana was talking about Rosanna Pansino, which meant Rosanna was also going to be in Escape the Night. But the whole reason Tana was even telling the story was because something scary happened to her on set involving a crew member that Joey had hired.
And the set that we're shooting in is underneath the building. It is in the basement of this giant building downtown. So I walk down to shoot, my phone immediately goes on SOS. Finally, I have a little like side quest, right? And so along with the hired production crew, there's hired actors, right? And all of these hired actors are wearing masks, like scary, like horror nights, like horror actors almost, right? And so I have this little side quest with one of these horror actors, okay? And so I get dragged into a freezer, okay? And then they're like, okay, your next scene is that you're gonna be chained to the ceiling. I'm just in this freezer, chained to the ceiling with a man in a horror mask, right? And he starts talking to me and he's like, hey, I'm JJ. And I'm all,
Hey.
hi, JJ. I'm Tana. And this man looks at me, I swear to through the mask, I don't know what he looks like. And he looks at me and he says, this is my dream, having you chained up.
No.
This is my dream, having you chained up.
And then to make this whole situation even worse, if that's even possible, that same guy ended up hurting Tana's finger pretty badly while they were filming this scene.
And we're finally shooting this last scene, okay? And I have my hand on another fellow influencer. I have my hand on her shoulder, and the same guy who came up to me and like said all of that, like he's still, mind you, he's still on set. He's still like doing his thing. He's whatever. He comes up to grab this other influencer away, and I have my hand on her shoulder. Okay. And he's wearing these like big, like mitts, like prosthetic. It's not like human hands. You know what I mean? And he slams his hand hard as on her shoulder, and my hand is on her shoulder, and my pinky inverts. My pinky inverts, okay?
Tana reiterated that what happened to her wasn't on the influencer who put the production on, and fully put the blame on the shady production company. She told everyone on set what happened, and the guy did come up and apologize to Tana, but that didn't really change the fact that she was trapped in a pretty bad situation that could have ended up much worse. Fast forward a few months later, Trisha had Joey on Just Trish and was also planning on filming with Tana later that same day. During the episode, Trisha brought up Escape the Night to Joey and talked about how Tana kind of leaked information about the production on Canceled a few months back. During this whole conversation, it kind of seemed like he was minimizing what happened to Tana and was more so mad over the fact by Tana telling her story, she leaked information about Escape the Night that was meant to be a surprise.
Are she not allowed to talk about Escape the Night movie?
I mean, she basically did on her podcast. So it's like, she's like, I can't say what show it is, but basically you had to run around and you had to escape while it's nighttime. I'm like, girl, just say the freaking name.
Later on in the episode, he pretty much brushed off the fact that Tana hurt her finger and was overall a bit dismissive towards what happened to her.
When Tana brought it up on her podcast, I was like, honestly, whatever. Like, she can complain. Like, it's just bringing attention to the project.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. Can I ask her about it then here?
Sure.
Okay.
You broke her thumb or something? What did you do?
Yeah, she broke her finger.
Oh, really?
No.
I can't wait to hear all of it.
She did not. She was at an event later that night, so she was clearly fine.
Well,
I'm
you
like,
probably could have gone with a broken finger.
no, it was like I don't deny that, like, her fingernail did get, like, bent or whatever, but, like,
Drama has already started.
Now, when Trisha posted this episode with Joey, no one really thought too much about Joey's commentary on what happened to Tana. There were no comments about it under the episode, probably because most people watching the episode didn't know the true extent of what happened to Tana. The same day that Trisha filmed the Joey episode, she also filmed Tana's episode, and that's where Tana got into what she experienced on set.
I love Escape the Night. I always have. I have such a special place in my heart for it. And I will always be so grateful to Joey Graceffa because he put me on the cast of Escape the Night when it was huge with YouTube Reds. Now I'm just in this room, no cameras. Through the mask, he says to me, he goes, perfect. Like, I've always wanted to have you chained up. And I go, ah! Guys were saying weird things to me and calling me hot and stuff. And I was just like, this is kind of a skeezy. And that's not Joey's, like, that's not on Joey. You know what I mean? Like,
definitely production, not.
Yes, but just very skeezy, creepy. Did you
say it to anyone? Did you say, like, did you tell anyone what happened besides, like, the cast? Oh.
Yeah, well, I told, like, Joey and stuff, like, and everyone. And they, you know, they were like, what?
Oh, I would cry.
Yeah, I was like, I really was so angry, honestly.
And that's when people started to realize just how much Joey seemed to have minimized what happened to Tana when he retold the story on this episode of Just Trish. But still, there weren't too many comments about it at this point. Everything seemed to be good until Tana got the chance to watch Joey's Just Trish episode and heard what he had to say for herself. On this week's episode of Canceled, Tana called Joey out for how he handled the situation and said that she's been way too nice.
I think I have been way too nice about how people act toward me when I talk about something bad that has happened to me at the hands of a man.
She feels like just because she's Tana, a lot of people minimize what happens to her when it comes to men in her industry.
With people being like, well, it's Tana, so she deserved it. You know what I mean? Like, that never bothered me so much for me because I'm healed and I don't need people's validation, but it bothered me so much thinking about my young fans out there who have maybe gone through something traumatic and then they see comments like that and then they're afraid to speak up in their own environments.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it just societally, and it does, it doesn't hurt my feelings personally, but it does kind of make me angry.
Tana said she really wasn't expecting Joey to handle the situation in the way he did, and going forward, she's no longer going to be participating in anything Escape the Night ever again.
And I really was so incredibly uncomfortable on that set due to those men. It has nothing to do with Joey. I went
above and beyond as well to still say that like I love Escape the Night and I love Joey and it had nothing to do with him and so on and so forth, right? Like I think that I was very clear in separating the two things, that I did not think what that man said to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was Joey's fault. And then Joey Graceffa goes on Just Trish and says, and I quote, "When Tana brought it up on her podcast, I was like, honestly, whatever. She can complain. It's bringing attention to the project."
That's a real quote.
That's a real quote.
He said that on Just Trish. That's like a really bold choice.
And like
Sorry
writing
that
it off
happened.
as complaining is crazy. And then almost like diminishing like the pinky thing. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't expecting that to be what he had to say about that. You know what I mean?
And people in the comments of this episode all agreed with Tana. They felt like Joey handled the situation poorly, and even though it wasn't directly his fault what happened to her, at the end of the day, it kind of was, because it was still his set, his hired crew, and he should have had more care when talking about what happened to her. One person said, "Joey was giving narcissistic misogynist when he spoke about Tana's experience on Just Trish. I'm glad Tana called him out on it." And that's when people started to wonder what Trisha had to say on Joey's episode when he said all of that about Tana. I mean, Tana and Trish seem to be very close. They're really good friends. It's pretty bold of Joey to talk badly about Tana to her good friend, but Trisha didn't really have too much to say at the time. She just asked Joey if she could ask Tana about what happened, and that was it. I will say she did kind of challenge him on the whole pinky thing, because Joey was like, "Oh, she said she broke her pinky, but then she went to a party that night." And Trisha was like, "Well, it's a pinky. It's not like she broke her leg." So she did defend her there, but I was definitely expecting more of a reaction from Trisha. Like maybe for her to come to Tana's defense during the episode fully, but I guess Trisha might not have had the full story yet, or maybe she didn't realize just how serious it was. It's very possible she never saw the canceled episode from a few months prior, or the Patreon clip where they talked about it, so maybe that's why. But once Trisha saw just how upset Tana was with Joey, she decided to address it on her most recent episode of Just Trish. Now, Trisha says she did watch Tana's first canceled episode where she talked about what happened to her, and now knowing the full story, she does think Tana initially underplayed what happened to her in order to protect Joey and the cast. It wasn't until Tana came on Just Trish after Joey's episode that Trisha realized just how serious the situation was.
Joey came on, it was the same day, actually.
Yeah.
Joey came on in the morning, and I had seen Tana talk about it on her podcast, then I had seen Joey talk about it. And when I heard Tana talk about it originally, I do think she like underplayed it, like what happened basically. And then Joey was like annoyed because he just didn't want people to know the cast. So he's like, well, clearly people know what it was for, because whatever. So his more annoyance was like, oh, Tana like ruined that she was on it or something. But she was really like shaken up by it. Like she was really shaken up by the whole thing, because they have scare actors, and the gist of it, there was a lot happening.
She talked about how prior to Tana coming on, she was telling Joey that she wanted to be on the next Escape the Night and how she always wanted to be on it. But after hearing Tana's story, she never wants to do Escape the Night.
I could tell just being here, like how like shaken up she was by it. So then I kind of felt like, oh, because I thought it was like fun and like a key to bring it up. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like a bad situation. So I think I even say in the episode, I'm like, because with Joey, I was like, I want to be in the next Escape the Night. And then after that, I was like, absolutely not. I don't want to be in that. That sounds crazy. Even just like the little part of just being hung up there with, no, or Moses can't come down and film with me. Like, no, what?
I get why she's pissed, because
yeah, I do too.
And one of the top comments under this episode of Just Trish that I think explains the situation perfectly, regardless of how you feel about Tana or Joey, says this: "I feel like people are seeing Joey as just an influencer and not the boss/owner of Escape the Night. When something like harassment happens, it is both the suspect's fault and the company's fault, and Joey is literally the owner of the company essentially. So to have him downplay a situation that happened under his watch/responsibility is the problem. And that's the tea. It's Joey's set. It doesn't matter if it was the hired crew who made Tana feel unsafe. It's Joey's job to make sure the talent are safe and taken care of. Did Tana over-exaggerate what happened to her pinky? Sure. But Tana said she told Joey and everyone about what happened, including the weird comments from the crew member, so Joey's response definitely doesn't feel like it matches the severity of what happened. Now, on the other side of the situation, Trisha is actually catching some backlash for how she handled everything as well. In this episode, after Trisha saw how upset Tana was with Joey, she kind of switched up and started talking badly about Escape the Night as if she's always felt that way towards it.
Remember, he was like, I think the only thing we had to cut out of the episode was me saying I knew the cast members. He's like, can you just cut that out? I'm like, do people really care?
People care. There are fans of it. There definitely are fans of it.
No, I appreciate him coming on. He did very well his episode. I was very, surprised. And and obviously love Tana.
And a lot of people in the comments feel like the switch up from Joey's episode to now is a little bit much. Trisha was so friendly with Joey. She seemed so interested in Escape the Night. She said she always wanted to go on it and was upset that she was never asked, and Gabby was asked like 2 times, to then pretty much being like, Escape the Night doesn't have any fans. People in the comments were calling her out on this too, writing, this switch up on Joey kind of feels like Trisha people pleases in person. Like, of course, Joey could have had more empathy, but now Trisha is like completely anti-Escape the Night. No shade. I don't know, but Trisha kind of heavily shaded Joey after being so fake nice to him when he was on the pod. Gave me a weird feeling. The instant Joey switch up is so wild. Now, I went back and I watched both episodes, and I think the main thing that is making people feel that way is because of this part where Joey is explaining to Trisha about how he hopes and dreams of pitching Escape the Night to a network and eventually expanding the franchise, and Trisha seems to be so supportive and excited for him.
I want to basically go to a network like Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, wherever, and be like, do you want your version of The Traitors? Here's the format of Escape the Night with no context of the previous seasons, like being part of it, but just the formula. And then each season will be self-contained. So I want you to be in that.
I'm done. I'm on.
Then fast forward only a few weeks later, her being like, Escape the Night needs to end.
It's a good name. Escape the Night just needs to end gracefully. Bow out. He's talking about doing a whole movie and selling it and pitching it. I'm like, okay, we crowdfunded this one. It's cute. We love it. But also it's like one episode. I don't know. Just...
So it definitely does feel like a pretty major switch up, but is it justified after hearing how Joey handled Tana's situation, especially since Trisha and Tana are such good friends? I will say one thing that Trisha said that is so true is I don't think anyone has talked about Escape the Night this much in a very, very long time. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about everything down below. How do you feel about how Joey handled the situation? Do you think Trisha's switch up was justified? Let me know, and I'll see you next time.